In the shadows of the global terror network, a name whispered with fear has finally been erased from the map. The elimination of Abu-Bilal al-Minuki, a prominent figure in the Islamic State, resonates far beyond the borders of Somalia. For Nigeria, this is not just another headline, it is a seismic shift in the regional power structure. Why does the fall of a distant commander matter to a mother in Maiduguri or a soldier on the front lines of the Lake Chad Basin? To understand the present, we must look at the brutal legacy of the man known as al-Minuki. He was a master of logistics and a bridge between extremist factions across the continent. His influence funneled resources, ideology, and recruits into West Africa, fueling the fire that has displaced millions. His death creates a massive leadership vacuum, leaving the extremist infrastructure in a state of chaos. But in the world of asymmetrical warfare, a vacuum is rarely left empty for very long. Nigeria stands at a crossroads, facing a multifaceted insurgency that has lasted over a decade. The death of al-Minuki offers a rare window of opportunity for the Nigerian security forces to gain the upper hand. According to experts like Sani Kukasheka Usman, this moment demands more than just celebration, it requires a radical rethinking of how the nation fights its internal wars. The old tactics are no longer sufficient against an enemy that adapts like a virus in the desert heat. The Nigerian military has long relied on kinetic force, using heavy artillery and airstrikes to suppress insurgent movements. While these operations have reclaimed territories, they have often failed to address the underlying causes of the conflict. The elimination of high-value targets like al-Minuki proves that precision intelligence works. However, the question remains, can the Nigerian government translate tactical victories on the battlefield into long-term stability for its citizens in the north and across the entire federation? General Sani Usman, a voice of authority in Nigerian security, argues that the current strategy is too focused on the physical destruction of the enemy. He emphasizes that the battle for Nigeria's soul is fought as much in the minds of the youth as it is in the Sambisa forest. Without a comprehensive non-kinetic approach, the cycle of violence will continue. We must ask ourselves if we are winning the war but losing the peace by neglecting the socio-economic roots. Terrorism in West Africa is not a monolith, it is a complex web of local grievances and global extremist ideologies. When a leader like al-Minuki is removed, the remaining cells often splinter into smaller, more radical groups. These factions are harder to track and more desperate, often turning their aggression towards soft civilian targets. To counter this, Nigeria's intelligence services must become more proactive, moving from a reactive stance to one of constant, community-driven vigilance across the northern borders. Information is the new currency of war. The PRNigeria report highlights that the narrative battle is currently being neglected. Insurgents use sophisticated propaganda to lure disillusioned young men with promises of purpose and prosperity. The Nigerian state must counter these lies with a compelling vision of a unified and prosperous future. This requires a synergy between the military, the media, and local community leaders to build a wall of resilience against the seductive calls of extremism. Technology must be the backbone of the new counter-terrorism strategy. From drone surveillance to cyber intelligence, Nigeria needs to upgrade its technical capabilities to match the evolving threats. The death of al-Minuki was likely the result of high-level technological tracking, a lesson Nigeria must take to heart. By investing in modern equipment and training, the Nigerian armed forces can stay 2 steps ahead of the insurgents who hide in the vast, unmapped terrains of the Sahel region. However, technology alone cannot solve the problem of human suffering. In many parts of northern Nigeria, the absence of basic services like clean water, education, and healthcare creates a fertile ground for recruitment. When the state is invisible, the insurgent becomes the provider. Sani Usman's analysis suggests that the government must flood these vulnerable areas with development projects. Only by proving that the state cares for its people can the ideology of terror be truly defeated. The role of regional cooperation cannot be overstated. The Lake Chad Basin Commission and the Multinational Joint Task Force are essential components of this struggle. Al-Minuki's operations crossed borders with ease, proving that no country can fight this war in isolation. Nigeria must lead the charge in strengthening these alliances, ensuring that there is no safe haven for terrorists in neighboring Chad, Niger, or Cameroon. A unified front is the only way to squeeze the life out of insurgency. Radicalization often starts in the local markets and street corners. Economic empowerment is a powerful weapon in the counter-terrorism arsenal. If a young man has a job and a stake in the economy, he is far less likely to pick up an AK-47. The government must prioritize vocational training and small business grants in high-risk areas. By transforming the economic landscape, Nigeria can drain the pool of recruits that groups like ISWAP and Boko Haram rely upon. Border security remains a significant challenge. The vast, porous boundaries of the north allow for the easy movement of arms and fighters. Enhanced border patrols and the use of biometric tracking are necessary steps to secure the nation. The elimination of al-Minuki serves as a reminder that the enemy is mobile and global. Nigeria's borders must become barriers to terror while remaining gateways for legitimate trade and movement. This balance is critical for both security and economic growth. The psychological toll on the Nigerian troops is another factor that needs urgent attention. Years of constant combat without adequate rotation or mental health support can lead to fatigue and declining morale. A successful counter-strategy must prioritize the welfare of those on the front lines. This includes better equipment, improved living conditions, and robust support systems for their families. A well-motivated soldier is the most effective deterrent against the chaos of insurgency and the threat of extremist expansion. Public trust is the foundation of any successful security operation. When the military and the civilian population work in harmony, the insurgents have nowhere to hide. However, past human rights allegations have created a rift that must be healed. Transparency in military operations and accountability for misconduct are essential to winning back the hearts and minds of the people. As Usman points out, the people must see the military as their protectors, not as another force to be feared. The radicalization programs like Operation Safe Corridor are controversial but necessary. The goal is to reintegrate low-level former fighters back into society after thorough vetting and rehabilitation. This process requires extreme care to ensure the safety of the communities they return to. While some demand only retribution, the strategic goal is to deplete the enemy's numbers and gain valuable intelligence. It is a delicate balancing act between justice and the pragmatic need for peace in a fractured nation. International partners have a role to play, but the solution must be Nigerian-led. Foreign intelligence and training are valuable, but the boots on the ground and the hearts in the villages are Nigerian. The death of al-Minuki, while a global success, must be leveraged locally to build a sustainable security architecture. Dependence on foreign intervention is a temporary fix. Building internal capacity is the only permanent solution for the giant of Africa to secure its own future. The corruption within the security sector must be addressed with an iron fist. Funds meant for weapons and welfare often disappear into the pockets of high-ranking officials, leaving the troops vulnerable. Transparency in procurement and budget management is not just a financial issue, it is a matter of national survival. Every naira stolen from the defense budget is a bullet handed to the insurgents. True reform starts with integrity at the highest levels of the command structure. The threat is not just in the north. Bandits in the northwest and separatist tensions in the southeast add layers of complexity to Nigeria's security puzzle. These groups often copy the tactics of larger extremist organizations, creating a climate of generalized lawlessness. A unified counter-terrorism strategy must be flexible enough to address these regional variations while maintaining a strong national core. The fall of al-Minuki should be the catalyst for a total overhaul of internal security across all 36 states. Strategic communication is often the missing piece. The government must tell its story better. When the military achieves a victory, it must be publicized effectively to boost national morale. Conversely, when failures occur, they must be acknowledged with a plan for correction. This honesty builds a bond of trust with the citizenry. Sani Usman's work with PRNigeria highlights the importance of professional public relations in the context of national security and modern warfare narratives. Civilian casualties in the crossfire are a tragedy that fuels the insurgent narrative. Every accidental drone strike or stray bullet creates a new generation of extremists seeking revenge. Precision is not just a tactical requirement, it is a moral and strategic imperative. The Nigerian military must continue to refine its rules of engagement and invest in non-lethal technologies where appropriate. Protecting the innocent is the most effective way to delegitimize the enemy's claim to be fighting for the people. Training and retraining are continuous processes. The nature of insurgency changes every day, and our soldiers must be equipped with the latest knowledge in urban warfare, forest combat, and electronic signal monitoring. Special Forces units should be expanded and given the autonomy to act on real-time intelligence. The death of al-Minuki shows that the enemy's leaders can be reached anywhere. Nigeria must develop the capability to strike the head of the snake whenever it dares to rise. The long-term vision for Nigeria is one of peace and prosperity, but it will not come easily. It requires a generational commitment to justice and equality. The elimination of Abu-Bilal al-Minuki is a milestone, but it is not the finish line. We must use this breathing room to implement the deep structural changes that Sani Usman and other experts have long advocated for. The future of the African continent depends on Nigeria's ability to secure its borders and its people. There is a sense of urgency that cannot be ignored. The global security landscape is shifting rapidly, and new threats are emerging from the digital and physical shadows. Nigeria must act now to solidify its gains. The lessons of the past decade must be codified into a doctrine that outlasts any single administration. It is time for a national consensus on security, where every Nigerian plays a role in safeguarding the peace and progress of our great and diverse nation. The death of al-Minuki is a fleeting victory if Nigeria does not seize this moment to reinvent its approach to national security. The path forward requires courage, transparency, and a relentless focus on the root causes of extremism. As the sun sets over the Sahel, the question remains, will we learn from the past, or are we doomed to repeat it? The eyes of the world are on Nigeria, waiting to see if this turning point becomes a true transformation.